With the Utah Jazz going full rebuild mode now, embracing the tank, and their pick only falling to pick 5, they are probably going to have to do a lot more work in completing the whole rebuild. And they don't really have a clear direction that they're in right now because they have some, good, valuable players on their team. And they also have some guys who are super young and super raw. So that leaves us NBA viewers and NBA analysis guys basically wondering where these players are going to go for the Jazz. And I think it starts with their past all-star, Lauri Markkanen. This guy was once basically averaging 25 points per game on elite shooting. This guy was a stud. This past year, he kind of took a step back, and low-key John Collins took a step forward. But, he's still Lauri Markkanen. He's still 7 foot and can do basically everything on the court at a decent to a great level. And he's just very valuable, and a lot of teams could use a player like him. But yeah, before we get any deeper into the video, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe like I always say. Helps me out so much. And yeah, let's look at this evidence and look at this, news. And I will say there's one team that I have in mind that might be a great fit for Lauri Markkanen, and we'll get into that later. But let's look at this first tweet from NBA Central saying, there's a belief around the league that Jazz are open to listening to trade offers for Lauri Markkanen. This is per Bill Simmons. Bill Simmons is very reputable, and, people trust him. So this is kind of big news. Obviously, you'd probably assume the Jazz to be open to listening to offers for Lauri Markkanen because they're not good at all, and they don't have a top 3 pick, so they're not planning on competing at all. But this is just kind of putting the foot in the door because we had the Kevin Durant trade offers, we have the Giannis offers, we have even some Zion offers, and now let's throw Lauri in the mix. I mean, this free agency and this offseason has a chance to be very, very crazy because we have so many big stars who might, get moved. And I mean, Lauri Markkanen could be one of the guys who gets moved, and I feel like people are overlooking him because he could actually be a very contributing factor to a championship team in the coming years, and I feel like he's very slept on. And now looking at the odds to who could get Lauri Markkanen, we have a tweet from NBA Central saying the Warriors are the favorites to land Lauri Markkanen in a potential trade. It goes Golden State, Miami, Orlando, Dallas, and San Antonio. Obviously, San Antonio could be crazy, but I feel like all these teams could actually be very impactful and very, interesting. But obviously, I think the Warriors might be the best because they need a big guy, a guy who can basically score, but also still, play good defense, play some paint defense, and grab some rebounds. That's what the Warriors need most. But I'll get into why I think he should go to the Warriors later. Let's talk about these other teams because these other teams could be interesting and they could very likely happen as well. So we also have the Heat, and the Heat are also looking for another star because I feel like the Heat are not trying to tank and rebuild because they have Tyler Herro, they have Bam Adebayo. They kind of just need another piece. Obviously, they lost Jimmy Butler, but if they get Lauri Markkanen, he could fit their timeline better, and they have some assets that they could trade for him. And they have guys like Terry Rozier to make the contract work. They have Duncan Robinson to make the contract work. And they have young guys like Nikola Jovic. They got some first-round picks. So yeah, I feel like if the Heat really wanted to get him, they definitely could get that deal done. It's kind of crazy how his value kind of changed from last year because I feel like, last offseason teams were asking, or the Jazz were asking for 2 to 3 first-round picks, it seemed like, and a good young player. And I feel like that's just not what they're asking for anymore. I feel like they're probably still going to ask for a couple of first-round picks, but they don't really need a good up-and-coming player alongside that because, he's obviously had his production drop, but he's still a great player. The next team we have is the Orlando Magic, and honestly, that's the team I like the least out of all these teams because I feel like they already have big 6'10" level guys who can do a lot of versatile things. They have Franz Wagner, they have Paulo Banchero. I mean, I feel like they don't really need a Lauri Markkanen next to them. And I feel like the Magic should be looking for an elite guard who can run the offense and score the ball a lot. I mean, that's kind of what they need. And I don't think Lauri Markkanen will fit that well next to them. So honestly, that's the one team on this list I don't think is the greatest fit. But I feel like, if you still insert Lauri Markkanen on the Magic, the team would be better, but I just don't think it's the best fit. And next we have the Dallas Mavericks, which I think is very interesting because, he could be deadly next to Anthony Davis and potentially Kyrie Irving when he comes back. However, will he stunt Cooper Flagg's growth? Because I feel like him and Cooper Flagg kind of have a similar play style, and I feel like Cooper Flagg has way better potential than Lauri Markkanen, no disrespect to Lauri Markkanen at all. But I feel like, adding Lauri Markkanen, who might take touches away from Cooper Flagg and might take minutes away from Cooper Flagg, might hinder his growth. So that's the only little problem I have there. But if they can work around that, inserting Lauri Markkanen next to Anthony Davis, next to Cooper Flagg, next to a healthy Kyrie Irving could make this team a championship level team for sure, without a doubt. And honestly, that could be nasty if they, make it work out the right way. They might need to insert a Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford along with a PJ Washington, and maybe that would get it done itself if you throw Derek Lively and PJ Washington. But if not, you might need to throw a first round pick in or so. But I mean, I feel like that could be deadly if they, do it the right way. And the last team we have is the San Antonio Spurs, which I think is nasty because, I mean, people are overlooking it. If they don't get get Giannis Antetokounmpo, they don't get Kevin Durant, Lauri Markkanen can still be very nasty next to Wemby, next to Stephon Castle, next to potentially Dylan Harper, next to Vassell, next to, Keldon Johnson. Lauri Markkanen could be very nasty there. Next to De'Aaron Fox, I don't know how I forgot him. He could be very, very nasty there, and he could honestly just do what Giannis does, but just at a worse level. And I feel like that would just be enough for the Spurs to make a deep run in the playoffs next year. So I feel like Lauri Markkanen could be a great fit for the Spurs. Whatever they trade for him, it would not be nearly as much as you would get, or you would trade away for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, that could also be a win there for the Spurs. But at the same time, I think the Warriors are the best fit for Lauri Markkanen, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, because obviously the Warriors have some height issues. Draymond Green at center is just not going to cut it. They don't have a good center. Obviously, Lauri Markkanen is not a center, but if you do want to play Draymond at center, you could put Lauri at the 4, and that could work out. Lauri can grab rebounds. He can be aggressive down there in the paint, and I feel like him and Draymond could work off nicely against each other. And they also have, Jimmy Butler too at the 3, so that could be a good little defensive trio there. And I feel like that could just make a perfect match made in heaven. I also feel like they need another scoring option. Jimmy Butler is great, but from what we saw in the playoffs, he is not the same Jimmy Butler he once was. And I feel like if you add Lauri Markkanen to this team, it can relieve pressure for him, and it can make him still be a really high level third option. And Curry can be not double teamed as much anymore either. And I feel like this Warriors team could be very nasty if you add Lauri Markkanen to them. I also think the Warriors don't have a lot of assets to give up, and I feel like maybe you give up a Kuminga and a Moody and maybe a first round pick, and that could get it done for the Jazz to say yes. The Jazz want to take flyers on good young potential, and I feel like Kuminga could be very enticing for them, and I feel like Moody also could be enticing for them as well. So I feel like those two in a first round pick would get it done for Lauri Markkanen, and I feel like he'd be a great fit next to the guys in Golden State. But yeah, y'all let me know down below what you guys think about Lauri Markkanen and where you guys think he should go. I feel like the main two enticers for me are the San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. The Spurs only if they can't get one of those big fish, and the Warriors if they don't have to give up too much, or at least as much as the Jazz were wanting last season for Lauri Markkanen, because that was insane, and his values dropped a lot, so the Warriors could take advantage of that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this down below. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe like I always say, and yeah, we out.